Chapter 19. The Flames of Treason. Dyaxes and his knights immediately headed for the royal stables to ready their horses for the pursuit of the fugitive. "I will head east to Telesway to search for Eadril," Dyaxes said. "Silas, I want you to head north to Edgewood. Arlan, head south to Dunsborough. Cerebus, I want you to go to Norfolk." "What about me?" Ectheon asked. "As heir to the throne, I would prefer you stay in Argion until this matter is resolved," Dyaxes answered. "Do you really think that Ectheon is in danger?" Cerebus asked. "We are all in danger," Dyaxes said ominously. Arlan raced beneath the gilded trees as he felt the cool night wind beat against his face. He envied the steed beneath him, whose mind knew only the need to satisfy its rider's purpose. Arlan had come to long for such simplicity of thought. Arlan had received the news of Eadril's escape with a mixture of fear and relief. In his heart, he doubted the charges levied against the knight. Indeed, Eadril himself had confided in him that such a plot was in the offing. But Arlan also found it difficult to believe that Dyaxes would have his own wife murdered just to advance his purpose. However, it was now clear that the rumors of treachery were coming to fruition. The question was, who was the real traitor? As Arlan neared Dunsborough, he was met by a sight that filled him with dread. Wicked flames danced in the forest before him, and baleful cries filled his ears. The knight's blood went cold as he realized the town was under attack. The archbishop was not surprised when the doors of the cathedral crashed open behind him. He rose from his position of prayer before the altar and turned to face the intruders. "Come no further," he said firmly as he appraised them with a fiery glare. "I will not have you defile this place with your presence. I know why you are here. God will not suffer the beast you serve to enter this holy place. And so your master would have you drag me out so that he might mock me before he kills me. You need not bother. I will walk out on my own accord. For you see, there is something I would have him know before he murders me." The archbishop descended the steps of the cathedral, flanked on all sides by soldiers. He stared defiantly at the man whose orders had set the village around them to flames. The villain merely laughed at the archbishop's glare. "Laugh while you can, demon, for your end is near," Ontario boldly proclaimed. "Killing me will not change the truth about what you are." "No, but it will keep the lie going on a great deal longer," the man said wickedly. "You should have kept your visions to yourself, priest." "There is one vision I have left unsaid until now," Ontario declared. "But I will speak it so that I might know that even as you send me to my eternal rest, you shall live out the rest of your days troubled by the thought of your inevitable destruction. Just as I have seen your coming, demon, so have I seen your doom. You will be destroyed by one bearing a golden dove in his left hand." "Your thoughts are muddled, old fool," the villain sneered. "But since you are so obsessed with prophecies, I have one for you. I have seen your doom, Ontario. You shall be killed by a demon before the steps of your beloved cathedral." The demon-possessed warrior raised his sword and prepared to strike the archbishop. "Stop in the name of King Eleuthean," Arlan shouted as he came riding up. "Your king is dead," the demon proclaimed. "He just does not know it yet, and you will share his fate. Kill him." The demon's followers fell upon Arlan and the small group of soldiers that were with him. Meanwhile, the villain drove his sword through the archbishop's chest. Ontario glared defiantly at his killer, even as his blood poured onto the ground. Though he tried not to show it, the villain was disturbed by the look in the archbishop's eyes. But he was even more disturbed by the prophetic words the old elf had spoken. Arlan fought valiantly, but was soon overwhelmed. The demon walked up to the spot where the brave knight was breathing his last breaths. Arlan stared up at the dark, cloaked figure. The demon then pulled back his hood, revealing his face to the dying elf. Arlan's face took on an expression of shock and disbelief as he looked upon the familiar face. It was the last thing he saw before he died. The following day, Argion was shaken by the news of two tragedies. The first was the burning of Dunsborough and the slaughter of its citizens, including Arlon and Onthariel. The second was word that the king was suddenly near death, a victim of poison. Both deeds were traced back to the same man. Diaxes and the remaining knights immediately returned to Arjan upon receiving the tragic news. "Iedril must be stopped," Diaxes said as he paced the floor of the council room. "This has gone beyond the plotting of a handful of traitors. This is outright war. The devastation at Dunsborough proves that he has an army at his disposal. My guess is that he has gained the allegiance of one or more of the barbarian tribes to the south of us. Yet he still has an ally very close to us, close enough to poison the king." Suddenly, the doors flew open and Lydia stormed in, an embarrassed guard on her heels. "It was you who poisoned my father." She screamed at Diaxes. "You killed my sister, and now you are simply waiting for my father to die so that you might claim his throne." "I am sorry, my lord." "Her Majesty is obviously overwrought with grief," the guard said as he grabbed the princess. "Do you presume to put your hands on the king's daughter?" Diaxes said angrily. "Remember your place, sir. And mine. If the princess chooses to speak, it is not for me to tell her to be silent. I am her servant just as surely as I am her father's. To act otherwise is to feed the suspicions that Iedril has used against us." The guard released Lydia and bowed in regret. "It may not be your place to chastise my sister for her slanderous words, but I am her peer, if not her superior by order to the throne, and I will not suffer further disruptions from her at this most critical of meetings," Cerberus said as he rose in defense of the commander. "Be seated, Cerberus," Ectheon said firmly. "Since you have been so quick to point out your station in this kingdom in relation to Lydia, I will remind you of yours as it is in relation to mine. I am the steward of the throne in our father's absence, and I will not have Iedril's divisiveness find its way into our family. Our sister has levied a heavy accusation against our commander. I would now have Diaxes respond to her charges." "I will not call the princess a liar," Diaxes said. "But the charges she levies against me are not true. We have all been witness to your obvious fondness for Iedril. I fear that he has exploited your devotion with grave results." "It is you who are the exploiter," Lydia argued. "You have used heroic deeds to blind the kingdom to your treachery. But Iedril saw through your veil of deception. He told me that you would poison the king. That is why he gave me the antidote to place in my father's glass. But sadly, it seems I was too late. You placed a potion given to you by Iedril in father's glass," Ectheon asked. "When did you do this?" "Last night at dinner," Lydia replied. Even as she spoke the words, a dawning of understanding showed on her face. "And today, father has taken ill," Cerberus said bitterly. "Would you have us believe that this is a coincidence?" Diaxes raised his hand to ward off the prince's venom. "Please, Cerberus, can you not see that your sister now realizes how she was deceived?" I'm sorry," Lydia said as she lowered her head. He sounded so convincing. "How could I have been so foolish? My God, what have I done?" She then broke down in tears. "Do not blame yourself, Lydia," Diaxes said with comfort. "We have all been deceived by Iedril. But tears will not bring back those whom we have lost, nor will they protect us from future harm. We must stop this treachery before it claims another life. Last night, Iedril started a war. We shall finish it." Diaxes divided the army into two parts to cover as much ground as possible, while still retaining a formidable fighting force. He and Cerberus led one group south of Dunsborough, and Ectheon and Silas led the other to the east. As Silas rode beside Ectheon, his eyes caught sight of a towering white structure far off in the distance. "What is that?" he asked the prince. "It is Tol Audrian," Ectheon explained, "the Tower of Audrian. It is the fortress of the Order of the Demonslayer." "With what kingdom are they aligned?" Silas asked. "They bow to no king," Ectheon said. The order was founded by my grandfather, King Audrian's best friend, Sir Edmund. They are a group of knights dedicated to finding the boss Demos, or the Demon's Bane, as it is called in the common tongue. The Demon's Bane? Silas asked. The sword that King Audrian used to slay the demon Azumen, Ectheon explained. It was lost, along with King Audrian, in the Battle of the Valley of Marchand. And seeking this sword is their sole purpose? Silas wondered. It is their life, Ectheon said. It is said that God calls individuals to toll Audrian from all kingdoms. Once one joins the order, he takes a vow of celibacy. Just like a priest, Silas noted. Indeed, they are very much like priests, Ectheon agreed, but far more deadly. Late in the afternoon, a scout returned with word of the enemy's position. I have spotted a barbarian encampment about half a mile away from here, over the next rise, the scout said. And their numbers? Ectheon inquired. Roughly the same as ours, the scout replied. Very well. We shall do a vice maneuver, Ectheon told Silas. I will lead my forces against their left flank, and you shall attack from the right. And we will meet in the middle, Silas said with a confident grin. Ectheon led his horsemen to the top of the rise and surveyed the land below. It was just as the scout had said. A large group of tribesmen were gathered on the plain below. The prince looked to his left and saw Silas leading his forces over the hill. Ectheon spurred on his horse, unwilling to let the other knight beat him to the center of the fray. The prince rode through the barbarians like a warm knife cutting butter. It did not take him long to reach the heart of the melee. He swung his sword relentlessly to hack down any tribesman who dared to approach. But soon the press became too great. A grasping hand caught hold of his cloak and dragged him down from his horse. The prince immediately sprung to his feet and raised his sword. The frenzied swings of the barbarians were no match for his dueling skills. Even their superior numbers did not provide them enough of an advantage against him. Ectheon cut each one down in turn until the ground around him was littered with fur-clad corpses. But just when he thought he was safe, he felt the cold steel of a sword pierce his side. A terrible weakness overcame the prince, and he fell to the ground. He rolled over to his back and looked up at the man who had dealt him such a heavy blow. As his eyes fell upon the familiar face, he came to understand the true meaning of treason. But the image did not stay with him long, for the world was rapidly growing dark around him. In the distance came the blare of a trumpet and the sound of approaching hoofbeats. The face of the man standing above the prince looked to the east, and as it did, a shadow of dread passed over it. As the last glimmer of awareness left Ectheon's mind, he had but one regret: that he would never know what it was about the approaching horseman that troubled his murderer so.